Welcome back here. Take a look at this number here. When asked if the Attorney General's office ought to investigate and prosecute cases of unarmed civilians who are killed by police, and this in advance of the Akai Gurley case out of Brooklyn, look at that. Almost 6 in 10 New Yorkers say yes, while only a third say no. I spoke to the AG earlier this week. What do you think? Because Attorney General said, listen, temporarily until Albany can fix this. I said, please, right? How long will that take? Right. Give it to my office, and then obviously the Brooklyn DA sees it different. How would you come down if asked the same question?
If asked the question, I would say no, but I'm kind of split on it. I would say no because I do believe that local DAs can prosecute police officers, and I think this suggests that they cannot. That said, there are relationships in the local level. I'm kind of split on this one.
Andrew, how would you say?
There's a rationale.
I haven't seen the rest of this poll. Was that the only option, or were they given?
Those are the only two.
So they weren't given special prosecutor.
Nope.
So I don't trust that number entirely because given the only option between the status quo, which seems to be disappointing people, and the Attorney General, people are going to go with the second option, the one that's not the status quo. I would have liked to have seen the numbers if they had offered special prosecutor or other possibilities.
Thompson made a compelling argument. He said, listen, we're elected by the people of our borough, in this case, or county, whatever the case may be, to prosecute cases. People entrusted us. But depending on your zip code, there's going to be a different, let's say, fervor to get an indictment. Staten Island, different population here. I think, if the same exact case, if Garner had happened to Brooklyn, Thompson may pursue an indictment much harder. It doesn't seem on its face, if you're going to get different treatments depending on the geography, that's necessarily justice.
Well, so if what we're trying to do is solve a systemic problem that exists in terms of law enforcement, particularly when it comes to African-American men and sort of what happens when they are involved
with a point of questionable shootings.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure, questionable shootings. But nonetheless, if we're talking about how do we deal systemically with a problem, I think everyone agrees there is something going on out here in race relations and law enforcement that needs to be dealt with. Now, whether this is a product of sort of latent fear or sort of calculated decision. I don't think it's calculated decision. I think there's something at the root here that needs to be addressed. The problem is that prosecutors and law enforcement are 9 times out of 10 the same team. They work together closely. It is their job to bring a criminal to justice. The police officers and detectives arrest them, and then the prosecutor goes after them. Yeah. You remove that relationship. It is very hard for me, if my colleague, I have to recuse myself if there's something involved, a conflict of a client or a colleague, because we work together so closely, can I be unbiased? I think it makes sense when it comes to sort of dealing with local PDs who you work with.
The rub for this one is, and I tried to get an answer out of Mr. Schneiderman, I really couldn't get a clear one. He's like, you'll know it when you see it. Who decides which cases reach this threshold? I know questionable shootings, but for example, nobody debated the cops in that synagogue fired with justification on the guy who stabbed the guy. That's easy. But what about when there's shades of gray? What if there's not video?
How about a review board, something similar to the
we
new system?
I want to get to this. You did an interview not long ago with Mr. Seabrook here, okay? This one for me, I talk about chutzpah, okay? Norman Seabrook, president of the CEO's Benevolent Association, correction officers, nobody debates the man's got some power. Okay, but the Times reports that Seabrook was so mad because he didn't like the DA here in the Bronx prosecuting anything going on at Rikers Island that he decided, you know what, no. I want the Queens DA prosecuting this, and he sent a bill all the way up to Albany, and it's waiting to get, it went through, now it's all is waiting as a signature for the governor. Oh my God, Dominic. First of all, I'm shocked by the amount of power this guy's got, maybe I shouldn't be, but secondly, talk about nerve. With everything going on at Rikers, he's gonna handpick the prosecutor?
And the Times put that story on page 1, I believe, about Mr. Seabrook.
And 4 other pages.
That's right. I mean, there's no doubt he has a lot of power. He reminds me of those old school union leaders, my way or the highway. He better be careful, though, because federal prosecutors are looking at this. And some of this stuff is very questionable.
Oh, you covered
shutting down entire bus services because you don't want an inmate to testify against 2 of your officers? Showing up at meetings with a gun on your side when you're a peace officer?
And by the way, if you're a Nick fan, listen to the commercials of Cobra. That's Norman Seabrook directly. That's a good use of union funds. All right. Gentlemen, stay with me. When we come back, we will head to Westchester County where lawmakers passed Rob Astorino's $1.8 billion budget, and New York voters saying no to giving legislators a pay raise Westchester County Legislator Catherine Borgia. She'll join us to talk about that after the break.